I really hoped You Can't Take My Daughter would be good. In fact, I really thought it would be. It sounded right up my street, and I'm in love with Kirstie Alley. So it ticked a lot of boxes. I love courtroom dramas. I thought it would be great. But unfortunately, it's not. It's not terrible. There are things about it that I think are praiseworthy, that I enjoyed. But ultimately, the fact that I didn't like the protagonist and couldn't get on board with her meant that I struggled to kind of feel any emotion towards the case. So I'm not going to spoil anything by saying the outcome, but I will talk a little bit about it without spoilers. This is based on a true story that I know nothing about. So this is my only source material. If you know anything about the true story and know how it compares, feel free to let me know. But I feel like I get the impression that a lot of facts have been changed. This was released in 2020, directed by Tori, Garrett, written by Lee Hopkins, and alongside the fabulous Kirstie Alley, we have Lyndsy Fonseca, and she plays a character called Amy Thompson, great first name, and Kirstie Alley plays her mother, Suzanne, who's in it, she's in it a reasonable amount. She's not a nice character, her mother, and yet I agreed with her more than I probably should have done. Basically, Amy has just graduated from law school, and she is sexually assaulted. And it turns out that she finds out soon after that she's actually pregnant with that person's child, and obviously the safety of that child is at jeopardy. The person who assaulted her is so infuriating and so annoying. And I will say I was kind of invested in that aspect of it because I really needed justice to be done, and I was genuinely really fascinated with what would happen with his character, because a lot of the times you could see that there was no real, no strong case against him in some ways, but at the same time, it seemed pretty black and white. There was evidence of what had been done. The police had apparently said, you don't need a rape kit, and I'm thinking, well, why? Why would you not? Because while it was blatantly obvious that she'd been assaulted, the who, what, where, why, when, and how was always going to be up for question. So I think the police in this made a lot of errors, and I just hope that that's not what the true story is about. I hope that those are just things in this narrative. Although for the film's sake, maybe not. I was slightly interested in the actual courtroom scenes, but at the same time, they made me quite frustrated because I felt like a lot of the information wasn't being delivered strongly enough. And again, that could be what it was really like. Maybe they've taken quotes from the true story. I don't know. I doubt it. But I feel like it was just more infuriating and annoying, and not necessarily a realistic representation of the average courtroom scene involving this case. I haven't been to any in real life, but I've seen a lot on TV and things like Courtroom Cam, or whatever it's called, that show that I absolutely love, the name of which I can't remember. Caught on Camera. No, that's not it. It doesn't matter. The point is, I feel like the representation wasn't that great, and the courtroom scenes were quite interesting. I like the set designs. I don't know if they filmed in a genuine courtroom or if it was a construction, but I think either way worked really well. The pacing was reasonable. Once it reached the halfway point, it went pretty quickly. But the whole point of this is about what's going to happen to this baby, and the baby doesn't even exist until about halfway through, as a baby, as a born child. A very adorable baby as well. But I just feel like the protagonist herself was so annoying and made so many bad decisions, or what I would consider to be not thought through decisions. They may have been good decisions, but she didn't give them care, due, and attention, so they were haphazard and not kind of, there was no fallback, there was no cushion in case the plan went wrong. Obviously, as you can tell, she decided to keep the baby. Her mother told her it was not a good idea. Her friend told her that she shouldn't. Is this a spoiler? Basically, she's about to give up everything she's worked for this baby, which in a way is her choice and her decision. But because she's making all of these decisions against other people's advice and she is completely ignoring what everybody else is telling her, I kind of feel like, well, if you don't listen to anybody else, why would a jury or anybody else listen to you? And even though what she was saying was true, it was hard to agree with her and hard to reason with her and hard to be on her side. She's not a likeable character. Very well acted, no issues there, but she's not written, for me, to be easy to get on board with. And I just found myself getting increasingly frustrated by a lot of poor decisions she makes, even after the baby was born. It's not just about the decision to keep the child, as I know that that's a very sensitive topic, and unfortunately one that a lot of women do have to kind of contend with. And, even if she decided to keep the child and made other decisions thereafter, I think it would be much easier to deal with. But in many ways, I think she was just proving her mother's point in a lot of cases, which is unfortunate. And if it is based heavily on truth, then I hope that, that bit's not quite factual. But I just feel like if the protagonist had been more likeable, I would have cared more about the case. Certain things I found interesting. I love Kirstie Alley. But I had such high hopes for this. And unfortunately, I just feel really let down.